Hello, my lovely friends. It's Margaret, and welcome to the Round 3 Voltathon live show. We are talking about Atlantis and Strange the Dreamer right now. So, in theory, there is a tweet that should have been scheduled to go up to tell you guys, like, the link. But I'm going to try something different than I've done in the past few... Wait, maybe I did this last time. Anyways, I'm going to let people introduce themselves, but tell us a little bit about your channel. But what I'm really most interested in is, what is your history with both the book and the movie that we are watching right now? And then I'll wrap it up with my history. So I'm going to go clockwise, starting with Christine, since you've done this 3 times already. This is your 3rd time.
Well, at some point last year, Sarah the Dreamer and I, the channel Sarah the Dreamer, we became kind of obsessed with each other. And her name is Sarah the Dreamer. So from this book. So why the hell haven't I read it before now? We don't know.
Because so you're lame.
My history with it is that it came with a lot of pressure to really like it. And my history with the movie Atlantis is that I didn't remember the plot until I watched it this morning. I know I saw it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like, she hot. But that's it. And then I watched it today and you'll hear my thoughts. And then, I'm Christine. Hi.
Yes. And I have everyone's channels linked down below, by the way. Make sure that you check them out and go see what videos they put out, because they do put out some awesome content. I only choose awesome people. Anyways, Kara, go ahead.
Okay, so this is my first time reading this book. I've owned it for a couple years, pretty much, not right since it came out, but almost as long. And I just put it off because the hype was super intense. This was on... it seemed like this was on everybody's best of books of the year, so I think that kind of put me off for a while because I didn't want that to affect how I felt about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that this finally motivated me to read it, because this is probably one of the books I've owned for the longest. And then as for, I think actually I was just realizing as I was thinking about this, I think I've read all of Laini Taylor's books now, which is interesting. I did not set out to do that, but it happened. Except for the sequel to this one.
Muse of Nightmares.
Yeah, I just said, except for the sequel to this one. Thank you, Margaret. And then as for Atlantis, right? The Lost Atlantis. I just forgot the name of the movie.
Atlantis, the Lost Empire.
Thank you. So I haven't watched it in a while. I was intending to rewatch it before this, but I didn't have an opportunity to do that. Mm-hmm. But I do remember it, except for the title, pretty clearly. And it's one of those movies where I liked it when I was little, but I've liked it more and more as I've gotten older, because I've appreciated certain aspects of it that are not... I feel like they're not as common in animated movies. Some of the characters are pretty unique, I think, archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to talk about that. My nerdy boy, Milo. I feel like I've grown to love the movie even more as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
So.
And Bree, I think this is your first time on my channel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Bree. My channel is Bree Bear McKay, but we're here to talk about the book. So the book I put off for so long because I wanted to read it at the perfect time. You know what I mean? It was I was waiting for the right time, because I've heard so many things about it being right. Because it's so lyrically written and it's so whimsical. So I was I have to be ready to get into this book, because it's one that I just feel you have to read at the perfect time. So I put it off, and then when I saw the readathon I actually found the readathon through Kaz's Little Book Owl's readathon calendar.
That's so cool.
And that's when I was wait, why is it called Vaultathon? And then I clicked on it and I'm wait, Disney Vault.
Yeah.
Wait, this is the best thing ever. So I kind of was so excited, and then I watched the announcement video for this round, and she said this book, and I was okay, that's it, I have to at least participate. And for the movie, I watched Atlantis a lot when I was younger, but I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I didn't remember a whole lot about it other than the book and the journey and the people with white hair and a lot of blue on them. So rewatching it was really nice to really reconnect with like the story itself and like the arc of it. And because I was like almost halfway through at that point with the book, it was like
Yeah.
really cool seeing all the parallels. And I was like, wait, so does this mean that other parallels towards the end are going to happen? I don't know.
Okay, so before we start, I know
God, I hope not.
Christine has some very. Oh yeah, I need to tell you guys my history with this stuff. Christine has some opinions, and I know what Christine's opinions are going to be because I think I noticed the same things, and I think because of the nostalgia factor, they don't bother me as much. But so I am old enough that I went to see Atlantis in theaters. I'm that old, and I remember.
I was 4.
Yeah, I was 2002. I don't want to do math right now, but I was like in my teens. No, wait, 2002. Okay, wait. I can do
2001.
I was like 14. I was like 2001. Okay, I was 13. So just barely in my teens. And so this is one of those kind of like Treasure Planet, Atlantis. That was kind of this era that I like. My favorites were from the Renaissance, but this is an era that I really like. I remember like going to the theaters and actually being a part of that experience. And so there's a lot of nostalgia attached to that. And I do like, it's so funny because watching it last night, Atlantis is such a mixed bag for me because there are things that I think they did really, really well that Disney had up to that point not necessarily done well. But at the same time, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, this is not a good look for some, like it's a progressive movie, but it's not as progressive as they think they're being. Like,
Yeah.
I would argue that it is not at all progressive.
So,
whatsoever.
Well, I think the place. My thing is, I think the places where they thought they were being progressive, they actually weren't, and the actual like good things that come from this movie are actual, basically accidents.
Okay.
We'll talk about Kita in a minute because I remember what I think about Kita as a character now is so completely different from what I thought of her and what I saw as a kid. And then Strange the Dreamer, I read in 2017, shortly after it came out, while there was still a lot of hype, I believe, because I was going through my library app and I was like, I need a book to listen to at work. And I was like, oh, I've heard about this. I wasn't even on BookTube at that point. This was months before I started BookTube. But I've heard about this. It sounds interesting. I did not know what I was getting into because I remember finishing this and the book ended and I spent like an hour trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life because I had to wait a whole year for the sequel. So
I have it on Libby for when I'm done.
I don't like you. Okay, anyways, yeah, you also did that with the Crow Prince, and we're not friends anymore.
Whoa, I had to wait a whole month.
One whole month. Okay, so real quick, I know I have not finished it, but this is my third reread. Kara, I know you have read it, and then Christine, you said you have you finished? You were like,
treat me as if I have finished it because I want the spoilers.
Okay,
gimme.
Wait, have you finished it, or are you still?
I have
we can
not
still do this live
finished,
show. Okay, I was going to say
I'm
we
good
can still
however
do
you
this
wanna
live
go
show
with
without discussing the end.
Yeah.
We can.
Either
in
way is
fact.
okay with me. Because I'm still going to finish it before the end of the night, either way.
Right.
I feel the same way.
I literally just got to the part where they got to the Citadel, so I'm like, and then I had to stop because it was time, and I was like,
you're just a bit behind me then. Okay, great.
I'm like right before everything is supposed to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, so, all right. So the way I'm going to start this out is let's just talk about what we thought about the main attraction, which is the movie. Like I know we've given a little bit of our thoughts, but like just specific things that stood out, how we felt about it. Let's start with Kara because I feel like maybe we'll sandwich Christine in there because I know Christine has a lot to say.
Wait, let's keep a handle on this one.
Okay. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I probably am the one who's watched it least recently. But I remember really liking Kita and Milo as main characters. And I really like that Milo is a nerd and that he's like even though he becomes this like adventurer, it's never framed as like character development for him where it's like, oh, now you realize that like other stuff is more important than books. It's like he still cares about books. So I liked that. And I remember this is one of the things where I think it would have been beneficial if I had rewatched it recently because I remember really liking Kita, but there are some things I think I would feel differently about now with the way that her and her culture and the way she interacts with that is handled, which we kind of alluded to. So that's I have like mixed feelings about her because I remember loving her as a kid, and now I'm like, there are some implications that are not the best. And I remember liking a lot of the side characters too, and I think that's one of the reasons I remember enjoying this movie so much is because like I'm such a character person, so that was a real benefit for me. Like I hated Mole. I still hate Mole, but basically like he's gross. I'm like, you don't need to be here. But basically everybody else I liked, or I understood their purpose. And I'm trying to think of
Mole was there for laughs, and like as a kid that was funny to me. Like one of my favorite gifts is him going, I'm so excited, because that just is but like as an adult going, why were people putting this in the like why did we think this was funny at all? Like it's comic relief, but it's not comic relief that we need.
And like I don't think even at the time I liked him. Like I didn't find him funny even as a kid, but like as I've gotten distance from it, I'm like, you harass like the female characters constantly, and it was like so I don't like him. And I think one of the reasons it took me so long to rewatch this movie, because I mentioned like it's one that I liked more later. The ending like really freaked me out of that movie when I was little. Like it really scared me. Like I think we know the part I'm talking about.
When I guess can we talk
about spoilers that you could be talking? Oh yeah, we can talk about spoilers. Let's just let's not say the main spoiler for the book that happens with Laszlo.
No, let's do it.
Okay. So
Sarah will come down from Canada and murder me. I know this will happen.
Sarah, don't.
So yeah, the part that I remember really like freaking me out as a kid is when like all the stone masks like come alive, and like Kita gets turned into the glowing eye being, and like I don't know what it was about that part, but like I was not into that, and I like, didn't watch the movie. I like refused to watch the movie for like years after that because I just like remember it really scaring me. So yeah, that's my experience with the movie.
For being sacrificed to the gods,
and the glowing eyes, and like the being like a zombie thing where it's like she wasn't a person anymore. Like she that really freaked me out.
So it's funny because as a kid, I thought Kita was so cool, that she was such a good, like, strong female character. But watching it back now, this movie has a lot of really interesting, pretty well-developed, strong female characters. Their main female lead is not one of them.
Oh, all the women sucked.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. Helga Sinclair needed to get cut in half. I'm like,
obviously she's a bad guy, but she's still, like... It wasn't the typical Disney princess mold. They actually had women that were more like what you might find.
Racial caricatures?
Well, that too, but you're more like what you might find in real life. Like Audrey, I think that's her name. Audrey,
let's talk about Audrey.
Is a perennial favorite. But like, just like, if you can replace your main female character with a glowing blue crystal and nothing happens in the plot, you might have a problem.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, like, I still love so many of the small little moments, but, like, just Kita as a character...
this movie gives the overall, like, wow, Moana was so needed. Like, we really needed Moana.
I think the thing, though, that bugged me the most was, like, the whole white savior narrative that comes up, and the fact that no one except her father... if they've all been living for 8,800 years... How is her father the only one that remembers their culture? Like, was there just this collective amnesia that happened? There were so many questions.
Well, she couldn't read, Margaret.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I understand
800 years and she couldn't figure out how to read her own language.
I understand that. I understand that because I can see her dad deciding he's not going to teach her how to read. I can see that.
These are some reaches.
But
or is it like historically more accurate for Disney to portray the indigenous character as not knowing how to read until the white man brings her literacy?
Yeah, there was a whole lot of that. So, all right. Any other thoughts that we have about the movie? Like your feelings, like what would you rate it out of 5 stars, Kara? Just going off your memory.
Just going off my memory, and partly about like hindsight, and it's like I know these things would bother me more now, I would probably say like 3.5 or 3.75, but that's subject to me actually rewatching it, but I remember it fondly.
All right, Christine, what did you like? What did you didn't like? What did you not like? I can do words.
Yeah, no worries, word nerd. So to put it in perspective, I'm sitting here this morning on this very couch, in this very sweater, watching this film with another historian, right? So like I'm doing my master's of history, she's doing her master's of history, I study colonialism, she studies England. So we're very well versed in what we're watching. We know all the tropes.
Oh my
And
God.
we're sitting here like, what is this movie? And we're like, that hat wouldn't have been in 1914, let me tell you, and like that kind of stuff. But that's just picky. Like the fact, like, first of all, this definitely was written to be taken place in like the 1930s. But then they were like I feel like then they were like, ooh, no World War II references, and they just put it back into World War One, like a Wonder Woman kind of thing. And it's like, doesn't work.
We are not discussing Wonder Woman because you and I will fight. So
I'm just saying they pushed Wonder Woman back into World War One, right?
Yeah.
Because the character in the comics is World War II. Anyways, they pushed it back, which was really obvious here because they make so many references, and then they're like, we're gonna throw in one Kaiser reference so they'll know it's World War One. And I was like, wow, got to make sure we have a reference to a country more villainous than America. That's great. And then we're just sitting there vomiting the whole time because of every white savior thing that happens. But we're like, the animation's really nice.
It is.
Like really ahead of its time animation. We were like, ooh, that color palette. Nice.
Well,
nice.
It's interesting because I felt like there was more of a mesh in this movie between the 2D elements and the computer-generated stuff than there is in Treasure Planet, because in Treasure Planet, it is a very obvious, break when you switch to the computer animation, and this, they actually tried to make them the same style.
It's so fluid.
Because Treasure Planet is a year later. Like, why would they have not...
Yeah. How did you get worse?
Yeah. No, I think that the art was beautiful, except Milo at times. I was like, oh.
What's going on with his face?
Yeah, like where did that nose come from? It was different a minute ago. And then Kita's super hot, but I can also understand why if I was like a parent and they were having that swimming underwater in a cave thing and she's pretty much, I would have been like, oh, wow.
Surprisingly, that didn't bother my mother, apparently. I don't
There you go. But I was like, oh, she's actually sexy. Like, that's weird. I think that the portrayal of Audrey was like probably one of the most racist caricatures of a Afro-Latinx person I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I like verging on, they animated her similar ways to monkeys' faces are animated. And I was like, this is a fucking problem. Like, why? Like, she's always like, like, it's just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Not really, because again, history, but like, it's today, definitely the most disgusting thing today. And dare I say, since I entered social distancing. So with that,
on a scale of 1 to Pocahontas, how bad was it?
I think Pocahontas is better, to be frank, in terms of racial portrayals. Yeah,
wow.
No, fully. Yeah, because I was like, this one came for everybody. There was not a single stereotype left unturned in this movie. They were like, who are the greedy fat guys at the beginning? Who are like the greedy rich bankers? Who are the big black guy, like the friendly, like everybody. It came for everybody. I was like, oh my God, like the white supremacy in this movie is unreal. I mean, it is 2001, but like,
I mean, at least they didn't romanticize an actual teenager getting raped by a white man, but
I mean, there was
Disney as a whole,
quite the age difference between those two, but yeah.
No, I just know that, like, culturally at least, there is among the Native American community, especially among the I don't remember exactly which tribe it is. They really, really hate. Like, they're like, that needs to go back in the vault. I don't know that Atlantis necessarily needs to go back in the vault, but that's probably not my place to say. Anyways, okay, Brie, what were your thoughts on this movie? Christine, what was your rating, Christine?
Oh, I'd probably give it like for animation, I'll give it a 2 out of 5. Like 0 for social consciousness, 0 for plot, 2 because the animation is like killing it. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Bree, what were your thoughts?
Okay, so I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. So there's that. But one of the things that I feel like the movie did well was it kind of brought like a curiosity for kids that, like there's these questions that, the world doesn't have answers to and we don't know yet. And I feel like it kind of brought that kind of like that curiosity and that like mystery to it where it's like I want to figure things out and I want to know things and I want to discover things. And it brought that to it, which I thought was really enjoyable and really well done. But I feel like the some of the arcs of those stories that it brought in were not so well done. I felt
Yeah.
like
There were so many plot
wrapped
holes,
up too
too.
easily. It came together too easily. In the end, it kind of like it's almost as if it like fixed itself and they didn't need to go there.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, it was like, dependent on the white people that went there.
Yeah.
To teach them how to read.
Yeah, and I sorry.
You're good. Go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, you reminded me, like, I think one of the things that I liked about it, and like again, like I agree with what everyone's been saying. Like, I definitely did not pick up on all the white savior stuff when I was however
Oh
old.
yeah, I
course
watched
not.
it
Of
last
course
night. I was
not.
like, oh my god.
But I remember, yeah, I remember like specifically liking the fact that the villain was like part of what made them villains is that they were disrespectful of other cultures and they were like grave robbing and everything. And I think probably one of the reasons I noticed that more than some of the other things, like my parents are both anthropologists. So, and like, so we talk about stuff like grave robbing, and like how that was just the accepted way of collecting specimens is like you would just break into somebody's tomb and dig it up. And so I remember liking, like, I think it was socially conscious of them to show that as being villainous. But yeah, the problem is when you get into like, okay, so that aspect of colonialism is shown to be bad, but the good guys are the ones who it's like we're the good colonizers because we're teaching things.
Yeah.
So
Like, they completely like they tried to solve like with that's what you're saying. Like that's one of my favorite things about the movie is that it goes, hey, this is how everything got into museums, and so they just kind of talk about the issue without actually tackling the issue, and they make it worse.
Yeah.
Like they
make it more confusing. Like
they attack one aspect of white saviorism and not the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so thoughts on the book for those of you that have, as far as you've gotten, I guess.
I'm over halfway.
You're over halfway.
67%, baby.
Listen, it's not my fault that my brother came into town for 2 weeks because he was supposed to be gone last weekend, and then
You still haven't read Chain of Gold.
nope, and it's not happening this weekend either. Anyways, so yeah, my brother being in town was not on my plan, and getting re-obsessed with an old love was not in my plan. So, anyways, continue. What were your thoughts on the book so far? For those of you, well, I guess everyone's read at least some of it.
Who wants to start?
I will nominate one of you if I must. Here, let's go ahead and have Bree start because Bree hasn't had a chance to start yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so far I am here. So I'm kind of right where things are supposed to get like, really intense is like the last chunk right here, the last quarter. So from what I've read so far, the things that I really, really like are like the writing is so lyrical and it's so atmospheric that it's like every time that I sat down to read, it's like I wanted to make sure that I could sit and just focus on it because it was just like I wanted to be in that and enveloped in it.
Nice.
I just felt like it was like really, really atmospheric. And I also really, really like the portrayal of different, like it's very subtle that diversity is like implemented, but it's implemented, it's like it's not like, oh hey, we have like all of this in our book. It's like, oh, this character just happens to be this, and it's very like subtly mentioned to where you're not even 100% sure if that's what you're reading until later in the book, and then it's like confirmed. Like with an LGBTQ character, it was kind of like hinted at but then it was confirmed later. And I really liked how it was like, you know, those kinds of things. So you could focus on the story, but also be like, at the same time, and kind of pick up on little things like that. I really, really enjoyed that element as well.
Nice. All right, Kara, what are your thoughts on it?
Okay.
Are you glad I made you read it, or do we still get to be friends?
Oh no, like we can definitely still be friends because I'm really glad I read it. I feel bad though because I didn't really like it. I know. I feel so bad too because if I had thought I wouldn't like it, I would have told you that before you asked me to be a guest. Because
No, it's okay. You're allowed to not like it. We like
every movie though.
I know, but I still feel bad about it. But there are things I think it did really well. Like I think one of the things that Laini Taylor is best at is side characters. I consistently enjoy her side characters more than her leads. Like with Daughter of Smoke and Bone, like I liked Karu and Akiva like well enough, but the reasons I loved that series is because of the supporting cast and like the development we got of them. So I did really like some of the side characters here. I think a big problem, so I didn't really connect to either of our two main characters. Like I didn't really care about Sarai very much. Like I felt bad for her, but it never translated into being invested in her chapters. Like I actually liked Laszlo's chapters and even like Thyone Nero's, even though like I didn't like him because we weren't supposed to like him. Like I feel like those chapters were like significantly more interesting for me. And I liked Laszlo, but it was kind of the same thing where it didn't translate into me being like super invested in like what was happening to him. And I think part of it is because his like it felt like 80% of his character at least was like being obsessed with the city of Weep, which makes sense. And like that's even like the setup of the book. So it's not like I was surprised by that. But I think because I wasn't as interested in the city, I kind of felt like I didn't have a way into his character to like really like I love the fact that he loved fairy tales and books. That was really cool. And I like that I like his identity as a storyteller and how he was kind of along on this trip as like the extra that nobody thought they needed, and it turns out that he's really important and that stories are really important. Like I really like all of that thematic stuff. But I think like the reason I had these issues with the characters is like partly because of the writing style, which I did not get on with. I actually the stuff I like from Laini Taylor best has been her earlier books, and I don't know if she's gotten I don't know if her language has gotten more flowery as she's continued writing, or if I just have slightly different preferences now. But like I can enjoy description and flowery writing and like really painting a picture in a setting, but I'd like it to be done for a purpose. And I feel like a lot of times hers wasn't. Like it was just because the words sounded pretty together.
There were times she went a little bit like I'm noticing this is my third time, but there are times she's gone a little bit overboard. I'm like, we just say purple instead of damson, please.
Yes.
Right? Oh my God. That's a secret word.
If I had to hear Sarai's lower lip described as a fruit one more time, like
I felt like there were so many times where character descriptions were repeated. So like when Laszlo and Sarai first interacted or like saw each other, it was like repeated, like everything that we had already gone over in the first like within the first like 50 pages of the book. We learned what he looked like, but now we're like 100 to 200 pages in and we're learning it again.
It looks that way.
Yeah, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah. Also, just so you know, Sarai is blue.
What? She is?
And super hot.
I seem to have missed that fact.
Yeah.
But she has red hair. She's like Fiona from Shrek. But
yeah.
Oh, now get that image out of my head.
Yeah, so those were kind of like I guess my main issues with it. But I did like I said, I liked some of the side characters, like Calixte. I have no idea how to say her name. Sorry.
I was thinking about that.
Calixte? Okay.
I think.
You know who I'm talking about.
It's been 3 years since I listened to the audiobook, so like my
Yeah. So we all know who I'm talking about. Her. I really liked her. She might have been one of my favorite characters, and I actually ended up really invested in Errol Fane.
Yes, Errol Fane.
Yeah, him and
okay.
Azira. I'm sorry. I'm normally like good at remembering characters.
It's
Azurine,
Azurine.
yeah.
Okay, so
Okay, Azurine.
I feel
I like ended up really invested in them, and I'm like, please just be happy. Like, you guys need.
It's so
you
tragic.
need to read book 2.
Like,
I
so
don't
much-
think you're gonna like book 2 all that much, but like if you like the side characters, you might end up liking some parts of
Okay.
book 2.
Yeah. So like I was like so much more invested in those two than in Laszlo and Sarai's relationship. I like did not care about that. Like it felt pretty insta-lovey to me.
Oh, see, I don't care. I'm
See,
more forgiving of insta-love in fantasy than I am. Like if it was a real life story, I'd be like, this really? Like I was having an issue in Atlantis because they fall in love in like 6 hours, but like
yeah.
at least with Laszlo and Sarai, it happens over a couple of nights, and it's like that. You kind of see it as that kind of soulmate type thing, where 2 people who just were made to be together.
He comes into his
Yeah.
bedroom in the
I think-
dark.
I think because like I'm not like super into this soulmate thing. I don't know. Like it can be done in a way that I like. Yeah, it can be done in a way that I like, but it's not like an automatic win for me. So like I felt like their connection was based on them being different and like attraction. Like so I don't know. It's not that it couldn't happen. It just like wasn't as interesting to me. So
See, I think
I don't
soulmates as a real world thing don't exist necessarily. I think we make our own soulmates. But soulmates as a fictional construct, guys, that's my bread and butter. I love it so much.
like I do like feeling after the relationship is like developed. I like feeling like these characters could only have been like they could only have had this with each other. Like I like feeling like they are special and unique to each other. But
Like Booth and Brennan.
yeah, like I like that, but I didn't really. Wait, did you give an example? I didn't hear what you
I said like Booth and Brennan because I'm obsessed.
Oh. Yeah, so
Yeah,
like
that is unique to them, Margaret. That is unique to them.
Anyways, continue, Kara. Christine,
oh, that was that was like pretty much. I'm trying to see if I wrote down anything else.
well, I have some things to talk about, but we're gonna let Christine give us some of her
Yes.
general kind of thoughts and things.
All right. Well, I
Are you glad Sarah made you read it?
well, both of you made me read it, and yes, I am liking it. I was so ready to be like literally have like my socks knocked off, but I don't. I think my socks are still on. But I really like Laszlo. I think he says stuff sometimes like in his little inner monologue, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, because I'm just like I don't know. I think it's like the historian in me.
The absolute
just, like,
nerd
very-
that just gets obsessed over stuff.
Yeah, and people are like, I don't see why I should care, and I'm like, what?
Because it's cool.
Well, there's not a good reason, but because it's interesting, sir. Like, and so
Yes.
I,
38.
yeah, and so I like Laszlo. I relate to him, and I relate to like the people not like underestimating how important the work he does is, and then being like,
Yeah.
oh my god, we need this stuff. We
Yeah.
need scholars. Holy shit! And it's like arts degrees are important, but like whatever. Yeah, so I like him a lot. I find Sarai's power really interesting. So I don't know if I'm necessarily like into her so much as a character, but I definitely am into that whole setup.
Mhm.
Minya freaks me out. I don't like her. I'm like, that's
No.
not how we
Someone
think.
needed to push her off somewhere.
Christine, that's because you're a sane person.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's true. Although this weekend made me question that, but I think, yeah, I like Ruby. She makes me laugh. I mean, I'm not done it yet, but like her whole thing with Farrell, I'm just like, well, why is that me at 17 too? Like, I get it.
He's only 15.
I
What?
felt so bad for Sparrow though.
I know, but
I
I
want to
like
be
her because
Sparrow.
they're
I
cute.
want to be blue. I want to be gorgeous. I want to be like, I make a flower. I do it
Yeah.
for you. Like, that's what I want. I think maybe Sparrow's the best
That sounds
character.
like Briar.
Sorry?
What?
That sounds like Briar's inner monologue.
Literally. Okay, my dog. Sorry, my dog. My golden retriever. Yeah. I think that one thing that is lacking for me, which I'm really surprising, like due to all the flowery stuff, is like an adequate idea of what things look like.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, I have no idea where we are or what
It's
we're
like-
doing.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry, Christine.
Go for it.
You're fine. That's how we do this.
It was like the more she described something, the less I knew what it looked like.
Yeah.
I'm like, Lanny, I'm like, can you
tell
just
me.
like, what does this building look like? I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if it makes you feel like a flower. Like, what does it look like?
That is completely opposite of how like I feel like I'm experiencing it this time, because I feel like I'm someone who really doesn't care about the surroundings. I care about the characters, what they're doing, what they're feeling. That is my first immediate kind of thing that I'm invested in.
So
But, like,
overall, I'd agree with that, except that she's like, and this was made from the bones of demons. I'm like, what does that mean? Can you tell me exactly?
they're giant bones that look
Yeah.
like a mountain ridge.
But how is that a building now? Also, like, I'm confused.
There was one of those
Yeah.
was a building. Okay, I missed
Maybe.
that part because
I think
Maybe.
I was like a quarter or a third into the book before I realized that the Citadel was actually shaped like a person.
I think that's
Yeah.
intentional.
Or in the sky. I didn't know it was in the sky until they told me it was. They're like, this is in the sky, and I was like, was there hints towards that
I
thing?
think some of that is intentional just because of Lady Taylor's writing style, but like she definitely
Okay.
like because I went in knowing what it looked like, but she doesn't really sit down and describe it until Strange sees it, because I think she's trying to do kind of like an air of mystery on what it is and what's going on. And,
Right. So then maybe my criticism then is that the not knowing goes on too long.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I felt like they don't meet until halfway through the book. And that's fine, but it's a long fucking book. So I feel like there's like a good amount of it where I felt very disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, like, I'm liking it a lot. That opening sequence where she falls from the sky and gets impaled and like,
What a way to start a book!
Yeah, I like that. That got me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but no, I think that overall, I'm leaning towards like a 4 stars, like 3.54. Like that's where I'm. We'll see. We'll see. Depending on how it ends, really. Yeah.
That ending literally rocked my world. The thing that I want to bring up, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is stuff that I really like about the book. One of the things that I love is how well, and she does this in both of her series, how well Laini Taylor really just sits and looks at what war actually does to people. Like, that is just
The trauma
like,
is real.
the trauma, the way that, and she doesn't do it in a like and it's funny having read, like, you can see the themes having read both of her series.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of themes in Strange the Dreamer and other things that, like, they will literally, like, it's not that you need to have read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, but they are so much more enriched. Your world is more enriched by knowing some of the things that are going on in the background. Like, we actually know what you will actually know, like, kind of a little bit more about Seraphim if you read Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
Wait, those overlap?
Kind of.
They do. It's in the same kind of
magic.
I can't tell you what without spoiling book 2, but there are similarities in them.
Is this
and
like
so there's
an MCU situation or like a
Yeah, sort of.
Riverdale
Like,
universe situation?
stuff that happens in this book, if you had read her other series, you would know it before you got to book 2, because it's explained in book 2 and we find out about it in book 2, but there's stuff that you would know going into this book because of stuff that there are links between the 2 books.
Yeah.
Does
And
that make sense?
I had heard actually from people that, like, you would enjoy this one more or you might get more out of it if you had read her other series, which I have. And, like, I don't know, obviously I don't know how I would have felt if I hadn't read her trilogy, but, like, I can see that, but I also feel like it made this book feel even more repetitive than it was, except for the fact that I really, really like the way, like you were saying, Margaret, I really like the way that she developed the themes of war and of, like, what is an acceptable cost to end a war. I think she actually did that a lot better in this book. Like, I think that you could see both sides' perspectives. Like, you could see where they were coming from, even if they did terrible things, or even if you had one side that you agreed with more. I think I could understand where they were coming from better than in Daughter of Smoke and Bone, because I don't think you were supposed to necessarily. Like, I feel like with
I don't think it was important in Daughter of Smoke and Bone, because the entire central like driving force behind some of the plot is this trauma that's happened to these children in this book. Whereas we haven't gotten to you're still in the middle of the war in Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Whereas here the war is kind of over already and we're trying not to start it again. But what I really like about her writing is that she never sits down and says, like she doesn't tell the narrative that, oh yeah, like the Allies were the good guys and spotless, and it was all those evil Germans. Said that just for you, Christine.
Unlike Atlantis.
Yes.
They're like, wouldn't want this getting in the hands of the Kaiser.
So, I mean, like, yeah, definitely there are probably people. Like, it points out that there are people who did, like, both of them, both series, I feel, point out that there are people who do bad things on both sides. And that, but
like, pain begets pain.
Complicated. Yeah, pain begets pain.
Yeah.
What is it was the used and abused, who are the children of the used and abused, and whose children will be used and abused as well. That's one of the things that she says in here. So that like she really gets that dynamic. So from there, I do want to segue into talking about some of the intersections real quick between Atlantis and Strange the Dreamer. And one of the most interesting juxtapositions that I really liked is because in both of these, you have two cultures that have lost a vital part of themselves that is in relation to knowledge. And one of the things that I really liked about this is if you look at Atlantis, it is a whole bunch of people who think they know the best thing going to this culture of their own volition because colonialism, I can't talk. Whereas in Strange the Dreamer, you have the people who need help coming to find it and getting to choose the specific help.
That's why it's actually good.
So
that's why you never have a problem with Laszlo, because he's just like, yeah, you ask for help, I help you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so cute. But
Milo Lily being, of course you didn't know how to start your flying fish machine. I'm a man.
Wow. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things. It was just like the reflection of like the girl can't figure out how to fix the car. You know, like the girl can't figure out how to drive the car.
Even though one of them's a mechanic, he still fixes her machine for her. I was like,
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Laszlo, Milo. You know?
Oh my god. Oh, poor Milo.
You know what? No.
It's not his fault that he was born in the early 1900s. I feel like
he's probably born in the late 1800s, Margaret. Was he 14?
Whatever. I feel like he's okay-ish for a guy from that time period. He could be worse.
He kind of made me think of an incel.
No, I don't think so.
Little
no, I like him too much to think that of him.
Why? All I want to do is help, and these girls, they don't want me.
Listen, at least, no, he never says that. At least Milo is able to admit that he is wrong and learn from his mistakes.
Yeah.
I feel like incels kind of lack that.
Yeah.
Sorry, who lacks it?
Incels.
Oh. When does Milo show that?
At the end.
When
he's like, crap, I've screwed this entire thing up. Why do we have me in charge? And I'm sitting there going, why do we have you in charge, Milo? You really should not be in charge.
No. He was never in charge. Nobody ever liked him.
Anyways.
You're right, though.
They were like, fine, come eat dinner with us, you freaking geek. Like.
All right, what other parallels did you guys notice?
The color blue.
Yeah. Lady Taylor has a thing for exotic blue girls because Karu, freaking Karu's blue hair in Daughter Smoke and Bone, I got so sick of it. It's like, we get it. You're not like other girls. You have turquoise hair.
There you go.
Yeah, Karu was not my favorite, in case you can't tell. I read those books in spite of her.
I like, too, how they always have to describe, their skin color based on their emotion. This one, it's like, she paled to a cornflower color. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I know. It's like, I wish, because, Laini Taylor, she obviously can write for atmosphere. So I wish she had spent more time, more of her sentences, I guess, on, their actual interactions or their personalities. Because it's like, she'll give you, 10 freaking pages about them sucking each other's collarbones and not about them as
I have not got there yet.
Yeah. And I don't know.
I look forward to it.
Maybe I'm just getting pickier with kiss scenes as I read more books, but those they went on for too long.
Okay.
I think if I was like really invested in Laszlo and Sarai, like their relationship, I think I would have liked them more, obviously. But it just felt like a lot. I'm like, this is not what you should be using your page time on. Like,
especially because when she does do dialogue, it's pretty good.
I like some of her dialogue. Yeah.
I laughed out loud. Some of
it's
the
not obnoxious.
yeah, like some of the stuff that Laszlo and Calixte say to each other. I'm like,
yeah,
that's funny.
yeah, Calixte's like, I think her dialogue was the best that I felt. Because like some of I don't know, some of the humor felt like kind of forced to me. Like it felt like this conversation only happened so Laszlo could like set up his joke. But I feel like with Calixte and a couple of the other characters, like their dialogue, like Arofane and Azarine, like, well, I'm coming back to them. I just really liked them as characters, and like
they are worthy of getting invested in. They are wonderful.
I love them. Yeah, and like their story is like so sad, and it's like I understand why you guys can't talk about your feelings, but damn it, just talk about your feelings.
That memory of her birthing the baby, and then like not even. I was like,
yeah,
that hurt. Like that hurt to read.
That is the thing that really gets me the most, because, like, how do you give up your child?
Oh,
like,
well,
I
if your
understand
whole culture told you it was a monster, like,
yeah, like, I understand, but, like, how do you, like, look at a child and go, they have to die, there's no other way? And I understand why they did it, but we also have the perspective of seeing that these kids are not inherently monstrous. Does that make sense?
Though.
Well, yeah, that's just because that's
for Minya.
The world was like, don't let her grow up. Puberty would be too volatile.
It's just, yeah, she creeped me out. I did not.
She is. She's creepy enough. She is, and she gets worse in book 2. I really wanted her to just take a flying leap off the angel in book 2.
There are several characters. Yeah, there are like several characters in this book. I'm like, we don't need you. Like, bye.
Well, you might end up coming around for some of those characters. Just saying.
Okay.
Christine's getting excited because she found Bucky.
Yeah, every book has a Bucky.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's something
right there. Like that should be a T-shirt.
Every book has a Bucky.
Every book has a Bucky.
I love it.
It's like a jingle, like. Every book has a Bucky.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, one of the things, Kara, you have frozen. Come back, Kara. Super. At least it's a good fake. It could be a worse face. One of the things I do want to, there are a couple of things, like, I actually want to discuss about the book, but one of the things I do want to discuss is Laszlo versus Thaon. Like, as characters, is just such an interesting dynamic to me.
I agree with that.
It makes me sad.
It makes you sad. Oops, she probably left and is coming back.
Yeah.
It does, because you can see why Thaon got there, but I just, like, it's so interesting to me that they have Laszlo, who is this nobody, this nothing, and all this stuff, and then they have Thaon, and the only reason Thaon is able to do what he's able to do is because of this guy that nobody thinks is worth anything.
But it's like when he said, like, why did you help me? And he's like, because you needed help. And I was like,
oh yeah, my soul. Yeah. Oh, I couldn't.
Oh. I get Thaon there being like, it's a dog eat dog world. Why would you do right? Because like, if you're not shown empathy, like why would you expect it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Margaret.
Well, I was going to say, I also think it has a lot to do with self-worth and the fact that Laszlo has been told his entire life that he's not worthy, he's not important, all of that stuff. And Thaon has been told that he is. And so it never, like, I love when it talks about the fact that it never occurred to Laszlo to take what he learned and use it for his own self. He felt that it belonged to Thaon's story. And so we have this imbalance there that is fascinating to me. Yeah. That I'm just like you kind of see both of them having to come around to the fact that your worth is like you make your own worth.
I kind of disagree though. I'm like, I haven't finished it, but I don't think he thinks he's worthy because he's like, when he couldn't figure it out, like the one he started testing on himself, like he was willing to drain himself to get it because he's so insecure about not being able to find a solution. I don't think he actually has an inherent self-worth.
Yeah,
I think Laszlo's more secure.
Yeah, I think like the interesting thing for me about Thaon and Laszlo is like we kind of see how both, like, growing up both ways is really bad. Because, like, Laszlo, yeah, it's very obvious that that's a bad way to grow up because everyone has been telling him his whole life that he doesn't matter, which is awful. And with Thaon, it's like you almost see the effects of people hanging everything on one person, like saying like the kind of pressure that puts on somebody, which not just Thaon's actions because he's still responsible for his choices, but I actually found him one of the more interesting characters because we would see, not, I don't even want to say sides of him because he was a pretty minor character, but like we would see certain actions or interactions that he had that didn't fit with our assumptions based on what Laszlo knew about him. So I feel like there was more room for him to grow than a lot of the other characters. So I think that's why I enjoyed his chapters more, is because they were more dynamic, if that makes sense. Like there was possibility there, whereas I feel like most of the other characters were static. Like I like Laszlo, but he doesn't change a lot, you know?
Yeah, that is true.
I can definitely see that. He has like more potential for an arc. I get that. Yeah. Because you can see where he could grow and develop, whereas like Laszlo, you're seeing he's already so compassionate and you know, caring.
It's kind of like when you called him Steve, Margaret. When you compared him to Captain America, it's like, yeah, he's already so frustratingly good.
I like Captain America though.
But me too. No, I do too.
Yes, but not as much as you like, because we were discussing the fact that like if Thaon is the Bucky, then Laszlo is the Steve, because he's just so inherently like he's gonna do the right thing because it's the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing.
That's not always the most interesting.
And, yes, but there are other parallels that make this more interesting, Christine. You just haven't gotten to them yet.
You know,
not those parallels, honey. Although,
like, Sarai, move over.
I do want to bring up the fact that there is a place that where Thaon is just sitting there reading the book that Laszlo gave him, the Miracles for Breakfast book, and I literally just put, "Do I sense gay panic?"
My first interaction between them, I was like, they fucked.
They have more chemistry than Sarai and Laszlo.
They do. I was like
I'm gonna ignore and pretend like that was not said, because I love Sarai and Laszlo. I like them more in this book than in the second book, but in the second book it has nothing to do with the characters and everything to do with plot things that happen that I don't agree with. But that's a whole different story. All right, one other thing that I want to discuss, because like here's the interesting thing. This is YA, and yet we have the main character, the titular character is 20 years old. So what? But it's still, like, reading it, I can sit there and go, yeah, this definitely is YA versus being, like, the name of the wind. So what makes this YA versus other books?
I think it doesn't, because, like, I personally think age ranges are stupid. Like,
I agree, yeah.
I think they're like, I understand from a publishing perspective why you want to target your marketing as like precisely as possible, but I think like I don't know, I'd be like a lot happier if we switched to more of a like content warning system, which I feel like some authors are starting to do, because that to me tells me more about like the content of a book than like I have read adult books that people like trashed and said like this is secretly YA, and it's just because they didn't like it, and I'm like, you don't get to call something YA just because you don't like it. Like I feel like that's what I tend to see a lot. So
because a woman wrote it.
What?
I said, or because a woman wrote it.
Yes.
The darkest magic.
Yeah. So I'm probably biased like with this question because I just don't feel like age ranges are generally helpful. But like I don't think this necessarily does read like a YA. Like people say that the emphasis on romance is one of the things that marks YA. I would say
that's not.
It's like some of the most unnecessary romance plots I've ever read have been in adult books. Like like it'll be like a crime thriller or something, but they'll spend like 8 chapters on how hot this woman is, who like doesn't have a name.
So they're always so dry too. At least YA is like, and he's also a wizard, baby. Like, you know, at least there's something there.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I don't feel like there are markers that, like, make this book YA, but that's my
Okay.
My
I would say there are, and that is because, so, and I have to study this a lot because YA is what I write, but this would be, there is so much inner conflict in this book that has to do with finding your identity. That for me is what really marks it as like seeing how you approach the problems is what marks it as YA. Because if this was an adult book, it would be a lot more about Laszlo having to confront the issues of his past and the trauma from his raise, and it's not about that. It's about him finding his place in the world, versus him like having to go, oh yeah, I have daddy issues and all of that stuff.
I mean, there's some strong daddy issues in this book, my dear.
There are, because Scathis is a terrible father, but
He's terrible at everything.
he is. But like just looking at that, and also looking at the way that they approach romance, you can sometimes see that in YA, whether it's YA or adult, because adult tends to approach romance in a much more straightforward, forthright fashion versus YA kind of beating around the bush.
But I feel like that's just
father.
I feel like that's just Lainey Taylor overwriting things, though. Like her obsessive like focus on like certain romance scenes. That's just how she writes. Like, I mean, so I know that one counterexample does not like disprove anything, but like for example, last month I read The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, which is an adult book, and I loved that one. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the conflict was very much like internal and finding your place in the world, and like I don't know, like I just don't feel like I've heard different like suggestions for how to like categorize YA versus adult, and just none of them have ever really worked for me. Like I don't feel like they're like, you can come up with so many exceptions to it that they're not helpful to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's hard not to talk about those distinctions in a way that doesn't look down on YA and middle grade.
At the end of the day, we all know that I'm not going to choose the book based on the age categorization, and more likely based on the name of the main character. So, ugly names, no thank you.
Like, I understand that. There's been books where, like, if I was interested in it, the name of the main character didn't turn me off reading it, but if I was on the fence and they had a stupid name, I'm like, I'm not spending a whole book reading this name.
With the Kavos, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
I also just, like, have no interest in Patrick Rothfuss's books. Like,
I don't anymore. I read the first two, and they are very, very good, like, narrative structures that should not work, and yet he somehow makes them work kind of thing. But having read some of the stuff that he read and knowing how it, like, seeing the fruit of it in what he writes now, I'm like, I don't know that I'm actually going to finish this trilogy. It's kind of at the bottom of my list.
No, it's a fun name.
No, it's not a
name. Laszlo. It's a fun name.
It is a fun name. Bree, do you have any thoughts on why this particular book would be considered YA instead of adult? Besides the fact that Lainey Taylor is a YA author. That is probably why it got stuck in YA.
Yeah, honestly.
I don't know. To me, I agree with Kara on it being like a very hard thing to define, and it's kind of a rough system. To me, the only reason why I feel like it's useful is for like the whole concept.
Yeah.
So I agree with that for sure. But as far as like it feeling YA to me, it did feel YA in the way that some things were almost a little bit too easy. Whereas I feel in an adult, like a lot of things are a lot harder to accomplish, and it faces like the challenges of like for example, the people that needed help from Weep just kind of showed up randomly, and I'm not sure if that's addressed at the end of the book, but it was kind of like it kind of just came into his life, whereas, you know, I feel like maybe in an adult it would have been a little bit more of a challenge for him to be able to get there.
And I think the plot conveniences are actually very much a Lainey Taylor thing, because there definitely are some in the next book, and there were a lot in the last book of her trilogy.
Yeah, like I feel like she views plot as like a necessary evil to get.
I don't blame her, because I'm in there. I'm like, can we just get to the kissing, please?
Yeah,
literally.
But if I'm not invested in the people who are kissing, I don't care about the kissing.
Let us get to the Laszlo and Theon kissing.
See, I literally will not be invested until there is kissing. We've talked about this book, Kara. I was not invested, and then there started to be a romance. I was like, oh, okay, now I'm interested in what's going on.
Right, now I'm on board. Yeah.
Oh wow, she's in his dreams.
I mean, I like that. I love. Okay, he saw her, guys. Okay, he saw her. We had never seen her before.
That was so predictable, though.
I knew it was gonna happen.
I was reading that, and I'm like, I bet he's gonna be able to see her, and this is how they know they're meant to be. And it's like,
it is actually. It's not, Kara. There's a reason he can see her, and you know the reason.
I know. It's still kind of dumb, though.
Because he's a blue boy.
What?
He's blue boy.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I have questions like when he started touching the thing and it was like coming off on his hand, but it wasn't anybody else's. I was like, I wonder.
That is he's like Loki.
Explained in the next book.
Like, ha ha ha, we're just gonna make you think you're white, but you're blue, boy.
He's actually brown, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought he was white and everyone else was brown. Because didn't he get like a sunburn? Like a really
no,
bad,
that was Grave. That was Grave. Grave is the one that got a sunburn.
Oh, okay. But so I was imagining him as kind of pasty, but also, I mean, okay.
No, Laszlo is definitely brown, the same color as the people of the city of Weep.
I don't know. You come at me with like indoors and a crooked nose, and I was like, maybe he's like.
I love the fact that his nose was broken by a book of fairy tales.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Say that. Who else can say that?
You probably know one real.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someone real.
I really hurt my nose one time because I was sleeping on a mattress on a floor and I rolled into a table.
You would do that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any other thoughts of the book, the movie, any of these things that you want to talk about?
How did you guys feel about the actual reveals of the mystery parts? And obviously this depends on like how much of the book you've read, but I want to I don't know. I know how I feel about it. I want to hear how you guys
the reveal of the Citadel and like what was going on with Weep and what the problem was.
Yeah, just like in general, yeah.
Okay.
So I think it would have been cooler if he had mentioned way before the chapter before they figured it out what he thought it was.
Oh yeah.
Because they were like, what do you think he's gonna be? And he's gonna be like, the blue people are back. And then it was like, boom, they are. But if he had like at the beginning been like doo, and then that's why they like hired him on or something, I feel like that would have been cooler. Mm-hmm. But of course it was just like it was almost like she thought of it while she was writing it a little bit, which is fine. Totally fine. She's like, what if they took a bet? You know?
Yeah.
I think that was just more of her wanting to show off like, how in tune Laszlo is.
Okay. Right. It was a Laszlo moment. Like,
so like the whole thing where he is able to speak to Aerofane, and because he's done all this study, he's actually able to use the language, whereas Theon only has a few phrases memorized.
I love, like, one part that I really loved was that Laszlo didn't just let them leave without him. Because, like, I knew, like, obviously, like, the setup of the book, Laszlo has to end up with the traveling group. But I was really, really glad where instead of, because he's a very, like, quiet and introverted character, and generally, like, that scene would be written as, then he just stood there and let them take his dream away. So I was really glad that he spoke up for
I would have just stood there and let them take my dream away.
I would have too. But I was glad that he didn't.
He advocated for himself. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. And, like, the other thing I was going to say about the mystery stuff. So, okay, they kept talking about, like, the two mysteries of Weep. And the first was what happened. Like, right, like, what happened 200 years ago. And then what happened that made everyone forget the name of the city. And then and then, like, the third mystery, I guess, is kind of, like, why they're being brought back to, like, what the problem is for me. Yeah. So maybe this is just because, like, I've been hearing about this book for so long. So I've heard the synopsis probably like 200 times. I felt like the mystery was a little, like, all of the mystery reveals were kind of a letdown, but
Yeah.
That
I
might
agree.
be like a function of how like huge this book is, you know, like almost nothing could have lived up to it, but like they get to weep.
Yeah.
Like they get to weep and it's like, oh, we've got this big statue, nobody can move it. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this. Like
I also have, I think it has to do with, dadgummit, it has to do, okay, do I have, oh, I have feedback. We're just gonna have to deal with it then. We're almost done. We have a few more minutes. Okay, let me get this back up. She likes to,
Oh, she's gone now.
he likes to what?
We can't hear you.
Haha, Margaret.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're just gonna deal with that then. She likes to circle back around to stuff, and like, because there were places where like you'd lead right up to the moment, and then it would switch to someone else, and there were places where that was done really well, and there were places where that was very affectatious.
Yeah.
And so she does that a little bit too much, and that kind of kills, because it just kills some of the mystery. Like the fact that there's a giant human statue floating over, that is a pretty big thing. And there are so many questions raised by that. But by the time you get there, you're just like, okay, you couldn't have told me this like 2 chapters ago.
Yeah. Like, because I think one of the reasons I felt like it was a letdown is because it took so long for us to hear it. Like, if it had been a mystery that was revealed within, I don't know, like let's say 10 chapters earlier, I probably wouldn't have been so disappointed because it wouldn't have felt like there was all of this buildup.
Yeah.
But there was, and also like the characters were like building up to it. They kept telling each other like, "What is it going to be?" Like, I can't imagine what the problem is, and it's like something almost ordinary feeling. Like, not to say that it didn't make sense why they wanted it gone, because like all of that it represents and the fact that they don't have any sunlight, like those things matter. But the way it was written, like for an author who loves to over-explain things and overwrite things and everything, I felt like it was very like cut and dry. It's like, oh yeah, like the statue's just kind of stuck there.
Do you know what was good? You know what was a good reveal was Sarai's power.
Yeah.
That was the only one where I was like, oh fuck. Like,
Yeah, I really liked the reveal of her power, and I liked the reveal of who her dad was, because it was kind of
yes.
like,
Yeah.
But you
I was
hadn't
like,
even been
there were
thinking about
hints.
who her dad
Yeah.
was.
There were hints, and so it like made you think for a second, but you didn't dwell on it because you were focused on other things. And so then when it came up, then you were like, oh wait, what?
But the
Yeah.
city one got so much attention that
Yeah.
you're right, it couldn't really have lived up to it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think there are ways to do, like there are a couple of, well, there's like a lot of plot developments that I guessed in the book, and there were some of them where even though I knew they were coming, the way they were done was really enjoyable because it was about how it affected other characters. Like one of the big things with Laszlo is something I kind of caught on to, but then when it was done, it was still exciting because of how
He's blue
yeah,
boy?
because of how like other people responded to it and what it meant for him. And then there were some.
It was.
What?
I think we're talking about the same moment, because it was surprising the way it was done. It wasn't just like,
Yeah.
this thing, hey, by the way, here's this thing. It was like it was so well integrated into the plot and what happened in that particular moment, and then what happened as a result. Like he's the architect of this thing that happens, and it's like, oh my god,
So strange.
Yeah. I'm gonna read spoilers as we're talking.
So, anyways,
Like if she's just gonna look up spoilers later, should we just talk about the ending?
Right.
stops the statue from falling.
Incorrect.
That's what we're talking about, right, Kara?
What?
You're talking about when he stops the statue from falling, right?
Yes.
Because I knew
Yes.
I knew it.
He definitely looks white in this fan art, okay?
Well, people do
The
that.
gray eyes, you know? You can see why I would have thought.
He does have gray eyes, but like, so the thing about the Misarthim is they're all a normal human skin color until they come in contact with this metal.
Oh.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's why you have such a variety in them, and then all of them are blue. And that's why Laszlo it wasn't blue, like he was blue as a baby, and then he was taken away. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in the second book. I'm like, you understand that this whole thing has been orchestrated, sort of. So like a lot of things that you're like questioning now will make more sense in the second book. But that moment when he just comes up and is able to do something with the metal, I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Wow, now I
That's
know
this
what
Captain
happened.
America moment.
Yeah. Yeah, like I know that I'm not even done book yet, and I know like I'm 100% sure like that's what's gonna happen. I was already like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
this was
his
not
dad
a
and
spoiler
Sarai's
to
dad
me.
were pretty early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I figured out Sarai's father thing. Well, I'm trying to remember what the other stuff. I knew the dream thing.
Anybody else that could be Sarai's father is the thing.
Right, like it wouldn't have. There's no one else who it could have mattered that he was her father. So it's like, of course, it's going to be. But I still think that was done well because it made the character conflicts like mean more.
Yeah.
And it was more about Sarai's reaction to hearing that news than it was about you finding out who her dad was.
Right. It was like kind of just like slid in there as like a, oh, hey, by the way, instead of like a main focus of what she was doing.
Mhm.
That's I feel like why I liked it, was because it was just like I wasn't paying attention to it. She was writing focused on other things. And so for me, I wasn't focused on it because she wasn't focused on it in the writing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine finding out you're a demigod and then being like, broke my nose with a book?
Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, never mind. I won't say that because
I'm going to tell Sarah I looked up spoilers.
It kind of makes me think of Fury and his eye. Where it's like some people ask like, how did you do that? I feel like it would be the same thing with his nose. Like,
literally,
how did you get your nose broken?
The Fury and the eye thing was such a letdown, though. I just
right.
Like that. Like,
so
I think it's kind of funny that it wasn't cool.
Yeah, but it was such a letdown. Anyways, we're not here to talk about Marvel characters any longer.
Whoa.
I think you just took away all of Christine's words.
I was gonna say, you know what? You know when you said earlier that 80% of his personality is being obsessed?
No. Like, I can understand that, and I can like characters who do that, but it was because he was obsessed with something that I didn't care very much about
totally
it was hard. Yeah, like if it was an obsession that I had, I'd be like, I probably wouldn't even care that he was a flat character. Like I wouldn't even notice.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I get that way about things. The way that Laszlo gets, I was like, oh yeah, I've done that with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, the entire alphabet.
Also, like I think one of the reasons that I didn't like really like him and Sarai together is because him falling for her just felt like an extension of his like obsession with the city. Mm-hmm. Like she was beautiful. She was beautiful, and she was from this city that he loved so much. And I'm like that's an okay starting point. That's an okay starting point, but I didn't. Yeah, I'm sorry, Margaret. I know you like them. Just like
no. Really, honestly, there really is no reason for him to like her. It's worse, actually. Is the only reason that he has to like her is that she's pretty and she's a girl.
Yeah, he's never met another girl who was interested in guys, and it's like he falls for the first one he sees, and kind of her too. Like,
so, anyways,
and only sees in a dream.
But it's
like I feel like they were just two like concepts that fell in love with each other.
I mean, at their very that's exactly what they are.
Yeah, I know, but it felt more obvious to me. Like I like when I forget that these characters who are involved are essentially concepts created by someone else. Like I want to forget that. And with Sarai and Laszlo, I was like constantly very aware that like Lady Taylor just wrote you guys to fall in love. Like
yeah.
All right, on that note, it is 8:14. I think we have exhausted everything we had to talk about.
Yeah.
Blue.
Blue, got
There's cornflower. There's cerulean. There's
also
other shades.
I actually like cerulean. The one time she used cerulean, I was like, okay, I can accept that use of that word because it felt like it fit. But when she put damson in, I was like, that's
like more than once.
It was you guys, it was every single time he noticed her mouth, except once. They
what about like violet?
Compared it to a plum, and I'm like,
oh yeah.
Pluck me, daddy.
It was just weird. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Christine, don't. Okay, so I think it is time for us to say goodbye. Again, I will have everyone's links down below in the description box. Make sure that you check them out. They do talk about like lots of various different things. So you need to check follow them. I am so happy that I know all of them at this point in my life. It's fantastic. So
Thank you for running this, Margaret.
Yeah,
no,
thanks for having us.
hold on. I should probably tell people when the next dates are for Vaultathon.
I'm so excited for the next round.
I know you are because it's your favorite Disney movie.
Wait, which one is it?
Oh my
Hold
god.
on, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay.
Are we allowed to say, or can we say when the live goes off?
No, I'm going to say it like right now. Okay, so
Cool.
the next round 4, is going to be June 15th through the 21st. And the Disney movie, we don't have a book yet because I haven't figured that out yet because that's how I roll. The book, or as the movie, is going to be Brother Bear.
Oh,
It's gonna be so good.
It
I
is.
don't think I've watched the whole movie.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
It has been way too long since I've watched it.
It
but
makes
I
me
love
sob
it.
Oh
like a bitch. Like I'm like,
It's one of those.
That's why I haven't watched it in a while. It's like
one of
watching Bambi. You just have to
Yeah.
like be emotionally prepared for it.
but with brothers, which is more
Right?
sensitive.
Same. Me and my sister are like best friends, so I feel that.
I know
Yeah, right?
siblings with
Siblings.
Disney. Like,
Yeah.
A sibling relationship will always get me.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's just like, and wait, it has brothers and mothers. It has the ultimate the ultimate combination.
Yeah.
Of grief.
Oh my gosh. All right, so like I said, June 15th through the 21st, and we'll be watching Brother Bear. I have not figured out what the movie is yet because I would like to actually do some research, and I want to see if I can't find a Native American or Inuit author.
I have an Indigenous Canadian YA suggestion, but I don't know how well it lines up with the book, but
We'll see.
Yeah.
we can chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I have like a couple, to recommend.
No, like, because I know that. So, from what I understand, it's not necessarily a good representation of the people that it's supposed to represent, but it's not. It's also like not offensive. Like they didn't do a terrible job. They didn't consult with anybody, but they didn't do anything that was overtly racist. I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, is the author Indigenous?
I'm talking about for Brother Bear.
Oh.
So, but I also I just haven't figured out what book we're gonna do yet because I want one that matches with the themes of this book, or this movie, but I have to figure out.
Actually, never mind. My book might work well. Actually.
Okay.
We'll talk.
DM me. So, anyways, thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone who has been watching, and we will see you next time we do this. Bye.